This here is a remarkable,
Welcome to the Wedding of Distinction podcast, a program for the unique bride and groom. The Wedding of Distinction is a concept where brides and grooms want something better, not just your average wedding. We have the tools to make that happen. Now, here's your host, Mike Fernino.
Yep, that's me, and thank you for letting me into your headphones. You know, all my life I've been chasing optimal health. Sometimes it's right in front of me, and other times it feels like it's miles and miles away. Certainly, in these very difficult and stressful times of COVID-19, the healthier you are, the less likelihood of getting really sick. For our couples planning weddings, being healthy and looking your best has to be a top priority. Of course, optimal health is more than just looking great in the mirror. It's about feeling fantastic and having the ability to give your best. Without a doubt, some of the most successful people in life are also healthy people. You'll be able to obtain a sharp focus and really perform at a high level. My guest today is a fellow DJ from New Jersey who I've known for a long time. I met him when he was just in his 20s, and now, in his 40s, he's a successful author, owns his own entertainment company, he's a dad, and the CEO with his wife at their pediatric practice. Marcello Pedalino showed up at DJ conventions dressed impeccably, bright, focused, and ready to take on the world. He was always someone who drew attention when he walked into the room, not just because he was exceptionally dressed, handsome, and well-spoken, but because he looked you right in the eyes when he talked with you and he gave you his complete attention. He was also that guy bringing the protein shakes and fruit to a DJ convention while all the other DJs were feasting at the buffet. Certainly, he was a role model for the healthy lifestyle concept, even though his colleagues didn't get it yet. In our interview, we discuss ketosis, what the heck it is, and the tremendous benefits. We also discuss Marc's book, Celebrate Life, and review the content chapter by chapter. Program note, at the end of this podcast, I will provide you information about an article that Marcello wrote, and he references it several times in our interview, along with 3 books he highly recommends. But you have to listen to the very end. No cheating. So let's talk health, focus, and well-being today on the Wedding of Distinction podcast. On the line today, I have Marcello Pedalino. He's many people in the DJ industry know him very well out in New Jersey with MMP Entertainment. Many people know him very well for his wife, Dr. Jill, and you're involved with the practice as well now, right, Marcello?
Yes, sir. CEO, and I just help manage the back end of it.
Very nice. I found in my archive, I found an interview that you and I did at the South Point Casino 14 years ago, and might have to re-release that in my archive series. But
wow,
found that. And
what were we talking about 14 years ago?
We were talking about nutrition and health, and guess what? We're going to talk about today.
Nutrition and health.
You got it, and you look the same too. You don't look any different than you did 14 years ago.
I guess I should keep talking about nutrition and health then, because I think that's I think it's working.
Quick story. I just got to share this with you. You won't remember this, but you and I, it was years and years ago, we went out for breakfast at one of our DJ conventions. And when we went out to breakfast, you came in and you had a blender. I said, what is this? He goes, oh, well, I have a special regimen here. I've got to blend my breakfast. And I'm like, man, this guy's got it seriously.
That's funny. Well, you know what? I even back then, Mike, it was bringing the blender because it was a healthier alternative to, and it's still the same case today.
Oh yeah.
Then I loved like a Taylor ham, egg, and cheese sandwich. I could probably eat 2, 3 of those every morning, but I just know that a protein shake is maybe not as delicious, but it just keeps me from being probably 25 pounds heavier than I am right now. That's why I did, and I would bring my blender with me, just because it's just like out of sight, out of mind. Well, it's the same thing with, if the blender's there, I'll have that instead of the Taylor ham, egg, and cheese. So
right. So you are human after all.
I am human. I do have kryptonite, just like everybody else.
I wanted to talk. There are many people right now who are. They're quarantined. They're not out. They're stressed. Obviously, stress is not good for anything, but it also puts fat on, and just naturally the body's response to stress. So I want to talk about ketosis today and all the different things and options. I know we talked about intermittent fasting with Dr. Jill, but
Yep.
we can get into that too. So I'm just going to turn things over to you because you know so much about this, and I'm going to sit back, listen, and take some notes.
There's no ketosis, there's no autophagy if you're not kind of intermittent fasting and really dialing in your nutrition. So if I could kind of paint it with a broad brush, it would be, number one, get over the misconception that you have to eat 3 meals a day and snack 2 times in between, because I don't know about you, but that's how I was brought up. To no fault of my parents, but I think that was society. And I just got comfortable with that. And I happen to have a big appetite as well. So it really isn't a great combination. In addition to that, some people, I'm sure you've heard of stress eating or, emotional eating. I think I've got a level of that as well to my DNA. And it's just a really, caustic kind of combination and what could lead to a vicious cycle. So essentially what intermittent fasting does to achieve ketosis, to achieve autophagy, which means, autophagy means to, eat yourself. It allows your digestive system, your pancreas, your liver to do their jobs and to allow you to have enough food to run all your organs, to keep things really basic here, but it doesn't overload. It doesn't give you too much, because if there's just too much, your body cannot do its job and you can't function to 100%. So what I've been promoting, and it's all based on experience, because I'd like to share things that worked for me. Like I've had some very generous mentors over the years who've shared things with me that have had tremendous impact on my life. I'm trying to do the same thing and kind of pay it forward. So I've discovered that with intermittent fasting, that you tend to be generally, whether you're a couple getting married or you're just an individual entrepreneur or a mom or dad, whatever the situation is, when you are hungry, it's generally because you think you need to eat because you've been doing that for the last 20 years, but you're really not hungry. Normally, you're actually more thirsty than you are hungry, but it's really like, oh, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I normally have my coffee and my English muffin, or I go to Dunkin' Donuts and get whatever it is, because that's just your routine. Americans love routines. Humans love routines. I love routines, but sometimes your routines aren't that healthy. So intermittent fasting kind of gives you that nudge, which it did for me, to break away from your routine, which is not easy. But like they say about how do you eat an elephant? Well, just one bite at a time. That's what you do. So when you broach the subject of intermittent fasting, you start by just skipping breakfast one morning. And you realize that you can skip breakfast. It's not impossible to do. And then all of a sudden you do that a few days a week, and you start to see some results and you feel better. You start to sleep better. And then it opens up this beautiful explosion of positive, there's this cascade of positive physiology that happens to your body, and it's really phenomenal. So that's kind of a broad scope to give you an idea of like what it's all about.
We will break it all down right now. So then let's start with the all of the preaching that we've received over the years that you want to eat 5-6 times a day in small portions. We're meant to be grazers, and breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I've heard this so many times, Marcello.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like now they're finding out it's not so much.
No, and I was one of the ones, even in my book, I talked about the importance of breakfast. And again, it's not that breakfast is bad, but you can intermittent fast and have 2 meals a day, but it doesn't have to be breakfast. Like you could start with lunch and make lunch and dinner your 2 meals of the day, or you can do, even a late lunch and maybe an earlier dinner. Whatever the case is, you don't have to wake up and have a really nutritious breakfast to be successful and to be productive. Actually, though, in the book, I do mention the concept of eating breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. I do believe in that, because something that all the experts agree is that you shouldn't be eating right before you go to bed. There should be at least minimum of 3 hours, ideally 4 hours, I believe. But 3 hours seems to do the trick for most people. You shouldn't eat right before you go to bed. But as far as how to start the day, I think you and my wife, Dr. Jill, you spoke about the old. I think it was a lot of the protein shake businesses who promoted the fact that you have to have your protein and a shake before you go out and work out. But we've learned that you don't actually have to eat before you work out. You can work out in a fast state and achieve the same results. So I think just like the cholesterol got a bad rap, but you learn that all of the all of the news and statistics that came out promoting lower cholesterol was by the pharmaceutical companies who make a crap load of money by selling cholesterol lowering drugs. So I think all the breakfast cereal companies, the waffle companies all said, yeah, you got to eat breakfast, and the orange juice companies, because now we've learned that orange juice really isn't that great for you because it's loaded with sugar.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, it's like, wow, orange, vitamin C, you should have it in the mornings. Well, no, not really. But you've got these people who say, yeah, not only do you have to have a big breakfast or healthy breakfast, which is, eggs and waffles and pancakes. Now, certainly there's nothing wrong with eggs. Eggs turned out to be a very healthy fat. But do you need to have, like on the commercials or the pictures on a cereal box where they have usually a bowl of cereal, 2 pieces of toast, mm-hmm. and then, some other like hash browns or something like that, and then a big, huge thing of a glass of orange juice? The answer is no. Actually, as long as you hydrate, to me, I've learned that hydration is much more important than eating breakfast. So
mm-hmm.
just to share what we do recommend, what I recommend is if you do get up and you want something, you can do obviously a nice big glass of water or, sip your water on the way to the gym. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with I do mention it in one of my recent articles, like bulletproof coffee. It's a really high quality coffee, and you use ghee butter with MCT oil, and it won't break your fast, but it will give you the feeling of having something in the morning. Because some people say, I can't function without coffee in the morning. Right. Okay, fine. Here's the happy medium. Have a cup of coffee that's healthier, and it won't break your fast either.
Well, let's get into this specifically. As a society, are we dehydrated? Do we drink enough?
Absolutely not. We think that if we have a Diet Coke with our lunch and we had a cup of coffee earlier in the day and maybe a glass of wine with dinner, that's being hydrated. Absolutely not. I think if you picture like a pretty big water bottle, I'm not talking about the kind that you put in your car or whatever, but like maybe like a 13 ounce or a 15 ounce water bottle. It's a pretty decent sized Poland Spring or whatever it is. My understanding is you should be having about 3 of those a day. Now, obviously not everybody does that. When I do an extended fast, like a water only fast, 5 days, 7 days, I make sure to have 3 of those in a day. So there's a lot of factors involved with that. But the average normal person working 9 to 5 or whatever, they're absolutely dehydrated, because if they're lucky, they're having coffee, but coffee is not necessarily going to hydrate you. It does provide some hydration, but you can't say, yes, I'm hydrated now because I had a cup of coffee. The answer is no. What you really should focus on, and how it relates to intermittent fasting or calories or health and wellness. The problem with coffee is that a lot of people will put a ton of sugar in it, or a bunch of cream, which kind of defeats the purpose of some of the positive effects that can come from coffee, because coffee isn't inherently bad. As I used to think, I was mistaken. It's not necessarily that all coffee is bad. It's just that there are certainly healthier coffee beans and how it's produced. Some with mold, some that have less mold than others. That's the key. And so I recommend in that same article I just wrote, Dave Asprey, who developed bulletproof coffee. He's a biohacker, and he does some amazing things. And he basically took care of all the people who love coffee. And he said, look, you want to have coffee in the morning? Here's how you do it. But in addition to having the coffee, he still recommends you need to drink throughout the day. And that's having 2 to 3, 10 to 13 ounce bottles of water throughout the day. Because then you're giving your body enough hydration, which allows you not to have to eat all day long.
And we'll get to the second part of my question. I'm an iced tea, unsweetened iced tea maniac. And I know there's no caloric effect. But am I hurting myself by ingesting too much caffeine in the course of one day? What can caffeine do to your system?
I do know that caffeine will, I know enough about it that it will interrupt your sleep, and it affects your system's ability to relax. So I don't know if you're familiar with like the fight or flight status, which I think a lot of people are in the sense of just general terms, but from a physiological standpoint, if you're in a fight or flight status too often, which caffeine can induce, then you're not giving your body and your emotions the ability to relax and focus. Some people say, well, I can't focus without my coffee in the morning. Okay, that's fine. But if you're like some of the people I know who do, 3 or 4 Diet Cokes or 3 or 4 iced teas or 2 or 3 cups of coffee throughout the day, your system is just working overtime just to remain calm. So it's almost like eating too much. I think too much of anything, as you know, isn't really a good thing. So I think the same thing goes. I would say the same thing goes for for caffeine.
All right, let's get into ketosis, because I still don't truly understand what it's all about, what it is. I've heard a lot about it. I know that we've been talking with your wife, Dr. Jill, about intermittent fasting and whatnot.
Yeah.
Can you give a quick rundown, essentially, of what it is, what it can do for you, and how to get to that point?
Well, there's a lot of great books that explain the really nitty-gritty about what ketosis is, but for the lay person, someone like me, if you were to ask me that same question, if I was to ask someone else that question, and I would want them to break it down into the most simplest form, ketosis is when your body uses fat for fuel, because normally it doesn't. So when you're able to burn fat as your main fuel, obviously most people, especially Americans, we have too much fat on our bodies, especially visceral fat, and that's the really bad kind. Being in ketosis, which I'll mention in a second how you achieve it, being in ketosis allows your body to become, and I know it's kind of a cliche thing, but a fat burning machine. So all of a sudden, you're not just losing water weight, you're losing actual fat from your body. And people say, how do you achieve it? Well, by intermittent fasting, it allows, as I said in the beginning, it allows your liver and these other vital organs in your digestive system to do their jobs. So now by eating less, and it's not depriving yourself of the proper caloric intakes, it's just allowing your body to digest properly. Once you do that, sometimes it takes people 3 days, 5 days, 7 days to enter this ketogenic state and achieve this ketosis, to where now your body is burning your fat for fuel. Then you start to see, among other things, weight loss. And I think there's a common misconception that people should enter ketosis for weight loss purposes, but it's not. It's just a bonus side effect, which I really, my clients, whether it's the entertainment production clients or my health and wellness clients, I say, please don't go into this for weight loss purposes. Don't say, I want to be keto, or I want to start a keto diet, or be, ketogenic diet so I can lose weight. I said, you're missing the point. Being in ketosis allows you to sleep better, to feel better, have better mental clarity, to just all systems will function better when you're in ketosis. And oh yeah, by the way, you're going to probably lose 5 pounds, 10 pounds, some people 20 pounds, and depending on how overweight you are, a considerable amount of weight. So just kind of consider that the icing on the cake. As far as achieving ketosis, the best way that I've found is to simply eat less. And again, we're not talking about deprivation of satiety here. We're just talking about just not eating as much as you are now, because it's way too much.
You wrote a book, which we're going to get into in a few seconds here, but Celebrate Life. It's about the overall happiness and health and well-being of celebrating life and being at your absolute best. Celebrate
Life is not necessarily a health and wellness book in the sense that it's focused on nutrition, exercise, and sleep. It's really that's chapter 1. The book itself is based on 7 lifestyle habits. The first being, chapter 1 would be, taking care of yourself. That's where the bottom line for that is, if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of the people who depend on you. And I think that holds true for any person in any vocation. So chapter 2, we move on to keeping good company. And this has a lot to do with, the fact that you are who you surround yourself with. So for me, being married to someone like, Dr. Jill, it helps me, just like with, from going to these DJ conventions, if you hang around with the quote unquote A-listers. And when I say A-listers, that's just not popularity contest. I'm talking A-list as far as who is the most successful, who is the most hustle, who is the most drive. It's the same thing with health and wellness, and being positive energy. So that's really important. That's what chapter 2 is about. Chapter 3 is keep good, do what you love. So we're very fortunate in the special events industry to do something that, we're, with the exception of COVID, we're able to go out and celebrate these wonderful, wonderful occasions. And the old adage that, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. I sort of believe that, because it's always work. But if you have to work, at least make some really good money doing it and have a good time. And that's our industry. So I always tell people, like my friends in Costa Rica, which I'll mention next when it comes to traveling, is that you can actually earn half as much money, but you can be twice as happy. So it's not all about just having a great job and doing what you love in that sense. It's doing something that you can make enough money, but you can also just be able to, again, do what you love in the sense that you're going to be able to earn the living that you need to earn. Anyway, I think you get the point.
Right.
Moving forward, the importance of travel. I tell people with chapter 4, you should not only travel outside your zip code, to experience what else is going on in the world. When you talk about health and wellness and fasting and everything else, there's blue zones of happiness. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there's certain parts of the world where people live till they're 90 and 100 years old like it's nothing. It's generally because they've got a Mediterranean nutrition kind of program. They have a lot of unity amongst their friends. There's less stress and that sort of thing. So not only should you travel outside your zip code, but you should also travel outside your comfort zone, experience and learn from other people's cultures. So that's the importance of traveling. Moving on, there's also the importance of making a difference. So if you want to feel good about yourself, you should be good to someone else. It's generally everyone likes the expression of, be kind. And sometimes it's a little bit selfish, I think, in a good way. If you're kind of down, if there's some depression, or if you're not having a great day, I found that instead of turning to food, instead of turning to other vices that you may have, just by doing a good deed for somebody, Mike, I found that you really do feel good about yourself. So it's not just you're being nice to someone else or doing a good deed because that's just the kind of person you are. It's like, well, I'm not Gandhi. I'm not, a saint. But sometimes, even though I enjoy doing nice things for people in general, sometimes I tend to do more nice things for people than I might need to because it makes me feel good too. So I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's a big part of celebrating life too, is being good to other people. And then beyond that, the next one is a really important chapter. It's the chapter that most of actually my readers have connected with. It's the chapter called Let It Go. And it's, I'm sure we've all dealt with some pretty challenging situations before. And I think the issue is that we don't know how to move forward. We kind of dwell on the past. We find ourselves in this position where we're so stuck with being angry or being resentful that we deny ourselves the opportunity and the permission to be able to move forward, start new, or just to rebuild from that point. So that chapter is about the ability to move forward. And it's much easier said than done. And then finally, the last chapter is evolution. So once you learn how to endure and conquer, it's in the same breath, you can say you want to be able to, you learn how to survive and advance. And that last part is the most important part, is advancement. So no matter what you went through, whether it's your fault or not, because a lot of times a lot of bad things happen and it wasn't even your fault, that you had to learn how to let something go. The death of a family, a divorce, COVID ruins your business, whatever it is. There's a point where if you don't either learn from that experience or grow from that experience or get stronger from that experience, then boy, you're going to be in a really tough spot for the rest of your life. But it just talks about the importance of being smarter and also being stronger from whatever it is that you dealt with. So evolution should always be, and that's how, my wife and I and my family, that's been our direction. It was also my direction professionally as well, is no matter what, every year there should be some sort of evolution in my business or my personal life. And over the last few years, getting back to nutrition and intermittent fasting and ketosis and autophagy and all these wonderful things, it's an evolution because I never did that stuff before. Not because I didn't want to, I just didn't even know about it. So that's why I spend a lot of time reading. And my little book was, it's a lot of big words and a lot of pictures because that's just kind of that. I wrote a book, the type of book I would want to read myself. I can, you can bang it out like an hour and a half, not even, but just something that if I read it, I would be able to become a better person, mentally, physically, spiritually.
And I think right now in this time of COVID, you had actually stated, read more, eat less. And I agree, of course. And I think that this book would be very valuable to all of our couples, our wedding couples, and my DJ friends as well. So how can you get Celebrate Life, the book that you wrote? How can you find it? Is it on Amazon?
Sure. It's on Amazon. The best place to get it is CelebrateLifeBook.com.
If you were to give one piece of advice to someone who's struggling right now, stressed out, they've lost work, they're just having a hard time, is there one thing that they can do and implement that might make a difference in their life?
You know what? I would say read the article that I wrote, I would start there, because the title itself says what I would tell everybody is read more and eat less. Because if they do that, it's not going to help them or help their clients have a better understanding of the crap that they're going through right now. It's not going to make their kids become any better at at being homeschooled with technology. It's not going to make CNN or Fox News agree on things and stuff. But if you read more productive books like the ones that I had suggested, which really go into detail about the real definitions of what ketosis and intermittent fasting are, if you do that instead of going online and arguing with people and just getting frustrated about the media and how they're handling things, whether you're a Trump supporter or not, nothing's going to change if you go online. I promise you that. You're not going to end up spending a half hour reading articles online or posts online and feel better. I can guarantee you that's not going to happen. Because,
that's the truth.
Right?
The truth.
So, but what I can guarantee you is if you read one of the two books or a book similar to the books that I recommended to you, you can start and have a much better chance of rebuilding your life from this moment on. Again, I can't guarantee you it's going to change your life and solve all your problems in the next 2 weeks, but I can tell you you will give yourself a much better shot of a comeback than if you just do what you've been doing. And it's two things: spend more time reading a book like I mentioned and less time reading Facebook posts. And then the second, which is kind of a combination, read more, eat less, is to just stop turning to food, which I know is easier said than done for a lot of people. But unless there's a really underlying issue, a disorder for your eating, if you simply start by skipping breakfast one day, if you can do that, then I'm telling you, you can be in the state that my wife and I are in right now, which is we are in our 40s and we feel like we're in our 20s. And if anyone needs any assistance with that or has any additional questions, they can call me. We can do consultations, that sort of thing. But you wouldn't need to. There's enough online in the books that I recommended for whatever, $12 on Amazon or whatever it is. Pick up those books. And you'll see that with that one thing, which is kind of a combination of an A and a B, you can absolutely change your life and change, if nothing else, make the next week of your life a better experience overall if you take that first step.
And I'll put the link to the article in when I post this podcast. I'll put that link in there as well.
All right.
And if you would, if people would like to get in contact with you regarding coaching and health and other things that you do offer as a consultant, how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, they can still do on CelebrateLifeBook.com. It has all my backlinks to it. But Marcello Pedalino, it's a little bit harder to spell, but I have my own website. MarcelloPedalino.com has all my the media appearances, my blog articles, my fitness videos and that sort of thing. And people seem to find it very very inspirational site, because if they want to get some new ideas for workouts, there's a bunch of workout videos on there. There's a bunch of articles on there. I think that's a great place for people to start right there. And they can contact me through the website there. My email and phone number is all on there.
Marcello Pedalino, you are the best of the best. And I thank you so much for taking some time today and being on the podcast. I wish you well. Take care of that beautiful family of yours. And we'll see you hopefully very soon at another DJ convention.
It'd be my pleasure. And thanks again for having me, Mike. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Cue the program note. I will make sure that you have a link available for Marcello's article. It's called More Reading, Less Eating: How Knowledge and Science Can Help You Survive and Rebuild. Want more? Here you go. 3 books that Marcello recommends: Bulletproof Diet by Dave Osprey, Becoming Ageless by Strauss Zelnick, and Keto Fast by Dr. Joseph Mercola. Thanks again, everyone, and please stay healthy and stay safe.
This here is a remarkable,
The Wedding of Distinction podcast is a production of Music in Motion Entertainment. All rights reserved. Any unauthorized publication of this program is strictly prohibited. For the Wedding of Distinction podcast, I'm Mike Vincent. Happy wedding planning, everybody.
Come on.